Brigadier General Jaroslaw Strozyk, who's an adjunct professor at the University of Wrocław. He's also previously Director of Analyses at the Polish Military Intelligence Service, also former Deputy Intelligence Director at NATO HQ in Brussels. Jaroslaw, we know that you have lots of other experience, but I'd spend 20 minutes introducing everything you've done in your life. Thank you so much for coming back to us. It's been quite some time since you and I have spoken. What do you make of the disagreement between President Zelenskyy and his top general? The general saying that the war is in a stalemate situation, Zelenskyy saying no, it's not.
Let's say this is good afternoon. This is like a regular democratic country situation, of course, in the war mode, like Ukraine. But this disagreement can exist. Perhaps it shouldn't be so vocal or getting to the public, but somehow the politician might have some opinions, but the generals are really in charge of the war and soldiers, and should protect its soldiers with sensitive, I would say, issues of course, life and danger of citizens.
You, as a military observer and analyst, would you have wished that today, in the middle of November, looking back at the start of the spring offensive, that Ukraine may have had more success?
That's obvious. Of course, we were discussing this since April, May, I recall, and we were waiting for, let's say, more steps inside the area which was taken by Russian soldiers, but it wasn't the case. And in pure military terms, we see that attacking the offensive is quite more difficult than defensive mode, like now perhaps Russian soldiers are in. So, of course, the stalemate is the best, of course, describing the situation is this is the best word, but there is no hope from both sides, I believe, for bigger gains than those that were taken by both sides in last couple months. So back and forth, tens of kilometers maximum, and this terrain is so well known by both sides for many years that this is like Russian soldiers are taking the old books from the Soviet Union time and the Second World War, and that's why this is not so much helpful for both sides, and the situation is very difficult in terms of military solution.
President Zelenskyy says the war in Gaza is distracting attention from the conflict in his country. He also says it's been slowing down the delivery of 155mm shells. Can you explain the importance of those shells?
We know from the very beginning that all artillery systems, those closer range like 155mm, which are typical old-time howitzers, of course, with different ammunition, more regular than the artillery rocket systems. All of that are very crucial to this war and gaining the kilometers which we're discussing. So, and we even recall that there were some ideas to take some 155 ammunition from the Israeli or U.S. Stockpiles that are prepared for Israel. And now this is the difficulty of the situation, that simply Israel needs perhaps not so many as Ukraine, but it has to be also prepared for any other stages of the situation in the Middle East. So that's why this is another obvious obstacle for Ukraine, and another obvious, let's say, point that it doesn't help Ukraine in short to mid-term.
Jaroslaw, what do you make of this idea from the Duma, the lower house of the Russian parliament, that next year's budget, well, starting from 24 to 26, but next year, the defense spending in Russia will increase by at least or around 25%. And really interestingly, the Communist Party in the Duma had voted against the proposal because it believes there should be more money spent on social services in Russia. But clearly, there's something happening, and Vladimir Putin may be directing his parliament to make a law that he can sign that will help the war effort.
I don't believe in all numbers that are made public by the Russian parliament. Simply, this is not any democratic mode, democratic way of providing some money to the government. Putin can have as much as he wants, but of course, with the recent minus, I would say, sanctions, sums that are really not in the amounts of 2021 or 2020. So simply, this is for me more information warfare. Of course, the Russian economy is still in the war mode, so this is simply much more financial resources given to the military than to the civilian side. So arguably, we don't know the real numbers, but we know that Russian militaries are receiving more equipment, and of course, with the caveats that not all of the supplying chains are available, but still, after this almost 2 years, they are ready to supply maybe through other channels, through Iran, simply through China or North Korea, and some other suppliers to the chain of Russian military complex.
Jaroslaw, we always appreciate your expertise. Thanks so much indeed. Jaroslaw Strozyk.